I realize that it's been a while since I've made a video, so the best, or rather possibly the easiest thing for me to do would be to talk about the changes that's occurred during this time. And before you roll your eyes and click off, I'd like to preface by saying that this is not just going to be a video about me saying boring shit like COVID happened and Biden won. Rather, I want to discuss the more interesting ramifications of the current events that nobody talks about or realizes. However, this is also most likely because these are negligible or insignificant when compared to other issues that we currently face. So yes, we know that the panoramic is a thing, and as a result of it, the way that our entire society functions has drastically shifted. People you see out in public might be wearing face masks. Any indoor service you use might have converted to outdoor or delivery versions of themselves, and if nothing, they're at least taking strides toward incorporating social distancing policies. As I said though, I don't need to tell you what's going on. You know. What I want to think about is the stuff that nobody else does, simply because I don't think that they think about it. I will contend that regardless of whether or not this virus is actually as serious as they say it is, I've been treating it like the resuscitation of the bubonic plague. So while you or people you know, hell, people I know for that matter, might have seen little difference in regards to their social engagement and behavior, I haven't left the house in 9 months. There might have only been 1 or 2 instances where I've interacted with someone in person that wasn't my immediate family, and that's going to become relevant in a minute or two. But for now, let's just focus on the simple stuff. So movie theaters are gone. I see absolutely no return for theatrical cinema. I mean, we also have to consider what we've seen in terms of the nation's actions against the virus as well. Like, other countries have taken the proper precautions correctly and essentially returned to normality for all of the last 10 months. America, however, I don't see America returning to normal for at least like the next 3 or 4 years. Even with this election and the vaccine coming out, it still doesn't consider the half of this country that's against the virus, so to speak. You can think that the virus isn't worth doing anything about. You can even claim that the virus isn't real, but other countries whose majority populations did take the correct precautions and policy are currently in the process of returning to normal or already back to it, so I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Whether or not this virus is real, you can't deny that the reallocation of funds and attention towards our healthcare institutions would be mutually beneficial for all parties involved, but that's a whole other issue. I'm simply saying if we consider the part of the populace that doesn't want to wear masks, chances are things aren't going to return to normal for the next year or so. My estimate is 3 or 4, but that's my estimate. I mean, my estimate is well founded though. At least I like to believe so. Because even with the election and the vaccine coming out, America is still a nation based on a self-serving Puritan culture that's resistant to change. There's a lot to unpack there, but basically companies such as Amazon, Netflix, and the like have essentially monopolized the delivery of services like shopping, food, and entertainment, those which you traditionally leave the house for. I see it as increasingly unlikely that people will return to leaving their residence for these services even when this virus is all blown over, simply because it's less convenient. The culture of America is built on making things more convenient and then selling that convenience to people, so my thinking is in line with that. I don't deny the possibility that smaller businesses can just transition online and so can the support for them, and that when all of this blows over, people will just return to supporting those smaller businesses precisely for the reason of increasingly monopolizing corporations. But I'm just trying to say what I think is most likely to happen given what I've seen from my experience. Not to mention that when you consider the internet, you open up a whole new can of worms regarding net neutrality and algorithms, but well, it feels like we're already jumping ahead of ourselves, so let's step back a bit. So cinema in the theaters is gone. I see no discernible reason why you'd want to return to the theater if all the movies are coming out on streaming services. I mean, maybe you just want to get the popcorn, which I understand. Movie theater popcorn is suspiciously good. I actually can see people wanting to return to the theater for the experience or because the home theater doesn't offer the safe capability that a professional one does, but I don't believe the cost to profit ratio is in the theater or the audience's favor in that case. Interestingly enough, I could see a place for live performance theatrically. but it'd have to either transition entirely to some form of online streaming service or just wait for the virus to blow over. The idea of live performance in the current day with masks or social distancing just seems like hogwash to me. Same goes with concerts, although recently I saw a symphonic orchestra do a live YouTube performance, all with proper social distancing and masks and everything. I'll see if I can link that for you guys. Of course, it can never beat the experience of seeing the music performed live, but we have to make some compromises here. On that note though, while orchestral concerts might have a place in the future, I'm not sure I could say the same for popular concerts. In my personal opinion and experience, popular concerts were for seeing your favorite artists, in person, live and on stage, even if it was from hundreds of feet away. Either that or to hear the suspiciously loud boom and bass of the speakers that seems to literally shake the ground. Possibly tripping or high off your ass so that you get entertained by the showmanship and dancing and shapes and colors and patterns that they show on the screen in the background. The moments the crowds would shift for some reason or mosh, and now you're 30 feet left of your starting position halfway on the ground. Lord, do I miss concerts. I never did understand the shapes and colors they'd play on the screen in the background though. I always thought you just needed to be high for that stuff. That might be gone in this country for Jesus, years at least, maybe even a decade. You just can't recreate that experience online. And I know they tried, but the thing is, I listen to their music on a dope sound system all day already. So you gotta offer something different. Maybe these current events will cause musical artists to be more creative and diversify their artistic content. Maybe more entertaining music videos? And none of that even considers festivals or sporting events. Football and baseball are apparently chillin'. All the indoor sports should honestly just move outdoors, but then again, basketball is a winter sport, so the Raptors couldn't play home games. Unless you can find a way to wear warm jerseys in basketball. But then again, there's always the possibility indoor events like boxing matches and sporting events will continue as they are now, on online streaming services. College could return. The thing is, I remember they asked for medical records of all these different vaccines that we needed, so it seems like they'd just do that again for COVID. That means that we as Howard students would have to get the shot to return on campus. Makes sense, but possibly suspicious in my honest opinion. If they did return, maybe they'd finally tighten up and buffen up the campus security and cleaning staff. But then again, that could backfire on the students because then you'd be unable or at least less able to on campus. Oh shit. And this is assuming Howard pays enough money and does the correct research and actions to accomplish all these tasks in the first place. They took off my housing and food costs, so maybe they took off everyone's, which subsequently means they're getting less money this period, but then again, that would mean there are no costs for them to make this year in those areas, so does it balance out? Who knows? But they did receive a lot of donations during this period as well. Possibly goodwill or some form of guilt from rich, probably white people who wanted to appear woke and philanthropic for a couple of days in the media. I don't care about the source. I'm a proud supporter of more money going into the school that I attend, but if I'm not on campus... But I still don't consider the possibility that they handle this super well and train the staff in online teaching services. Maybe they buff up the IT staff and completely overhaul the website and subsequent student portal so that it's actually intuitive to use. Then again, this is Wayne we're talking about. I'm not gonna speak on that any further because honestly I can't. However, I will say that Howard's ability to improve their technological platforms and presence in their students' lives in the future may improve the performance and mood of their students as a result. Let's return to simplicity and stop talking about my school. The dap is completely gone. That was like one of my favorite parts about being black next to saying nigga. I guess the nod still exists, but I don't really do the nod because to me it feels more like a challenge than a symbol of solidarity. Something could replace the dap in the future, I just don't know what, and I know that it's definitely gone for a while, so something has got to. I saw a tweet that said even when this all blows over, I'm still going to wear a mask everywhere I go, and I think that sums up a lot of the reasons as to why I believe this COVID culture is going to be around for a while. What about Disneyland? I mean, thank God SeaWorld will die if they haven't already, same with the circus, but I don't know about Disneyland. That and amusement parks were super cool, but the idea of them socially distanced really loses something, even if it actually is effective at stopping the spread. Speaking of stuff that really loses something, if it's properly socially distanced and masked up, that is, classes and school events. I mean, I'll stay away from Howard, don't get me wrong, but if you were in high school or about to go to high school or college, yeah, that just sucks for you. Like, good luck trying to learn and develop healthily having to see all of your friends 6 feet apart. Or with masks on all the time. And your teacher. But like I said, maybe this won't even happen if everyone who goes back to school has the vaccine, so I don't know. Oh, that reminds me. We kind of have to talk about it now, I guess. So, remember how I said I haven't had in-person contact with anyone that wasn't my family in the last 9 months? I've been wondering if this has an effect on my mental, emotional, or psychological health. I'd like to think no, because people have lived on farms for like years without seeing anyone that wasn't their family, and they had it worse because they couldn't even interact with anyone else in the world like we can with the internet. I mean, people are known to act super weird throughout history and even in the current day, but I don't know, I feel like there might be some hormone deficiency or something from the lack of in-person interaction with other people. Whatever, time will tell. Regardless of provably diagnosable health issues related to lack of in-person social interaction, I bet that suicide rate is climbing, especially if the homeless rate is. And I wouldn't be surprised if drug use, domestic violence, and other such statistics were rising as a result as well. People also don't talk about the fact that COVID itself can do serious damage to its victims. Jeremiah suffered organ failure, memory loss. He had to relearn to walk as a result of his battle with it. If you or a family member you love and care about catches this disease and it results in a similar situation, that could be traumatizing for you and the rest of your relatives. This is getting kind of dark, so I'll try to end on a somewhat positive note. Funnily enough, the tobacco industry has seen a notable increase in people purchasing their products. I believe it's because people believe that production of smokable tobacco, especially the finest of which, will slow down as a result of COVID, so they're stocking up before that happens. In the tobacco industry, you're always thinking 10 years ahead of what you're actually producing now. I might talk a little bit more about tobacco in the future. That's a very interesting plan. So I think this thus brings us to the crux of this video, and that is, and as always with every video that I make, why am I making it? Because like I said at the beginning of this, there's a lot of stuff that people want to talk about in regards to the past 9 months and their influence on the subsequent years. But none of that stuff is stuff that I want to talk about in regards to this disease. I'm not trying to be narcissistic or self-righteous. The thing is that I think it's important to establish early on in this channel's life that this is how I think. When faced with a problem, I tend to look at and think about the little things. In fact, I overthink them, but I never overlook them. I do this in music a lot too, and life in general. When I watch movies, I notice nuanced details that only fans of the movies would appreciate. And when I listen to music, I notice nuanced details that only fans of the music would appreciate. And that's another trend I noticed about my perspective and thought process. I tend to view stuff from a lot of different perspectives. I'm not a both sides or all sides type of nigga, but I do at least understand where they're coming from, if nothing else. The logic of other people makes sense to me, even if to me it isn't logical. I wonder what that says about me psychologically. Understanding how I think about stuff is beneficial to you, the viewer, because in future videos you might be able to better understand where I'm coming from and why my perspective and opinion is the way it is. As for all else, I think that's honestly all I have to say for this video. If I think of anything else, I'll write it up in the script for a future video and say it there. If you have anything you want to add to the conversation or a suggestion for me and my future videos, leave a comment below. Remember to subscribe, like, share, do all that YouTube crap, and also check the bio for links to my other YouTube channel as well as Twitch, where I'm doing chess, music production, and possibly some other stuff. We got a whole lot of plans for the future, but that is it for this one. So I will see you next time, and until then, always remember to think philosophically.